Well, hello there, watching the press preview. A first look, of course, at what is on the front pages. Time to see what's making the headlines with the political editors of The Sun and The Guardian, Harry Cole and Pippa Crerar. Great to see both of you. So to the front pages then, let us start with the Metro, leading with the Met Police investigating a claim that Russell Brand sexually assaulted a woman in 2003. He denies any allegations of wrongdoing in relation to all the claims against him. The Daily Mirror also leading on the news that the police are now involved. The Eye also features the fallout from the allegations as food bank and drug addiction charities sever ties with the comic. The Guardian leads with a warning from the Metropolitan Police that it may take years to root out rogue officers throughout the capital, with nearly 1,000 officers either suspended or on restricted duties. As Sir Keir Starmer prepares to meet the French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris tomorrow, the Daily Mail says the Labour leader has been accused of Brexit betrayal over his plans to rewrite the UK's deal with the European Union. The international edition of the Financial Times details the EU's condemnation of Poland, Hungary and Slovakia after the countries banned Ukraine grain imports. And The Star has some advice for parents who want their kids to grow up to be tall. Show them a bit of love, the paper claims. And a reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. So let's head to Harry and Pippa. Welcome to both of you. Lovely to see you here as well. And Pippa, why don't you kick off then? Because the news today on Russell Brand, which is once again dominating the newspapers, is that it seems the police are now involved.
Yes, we had 3 very serious allegations over the weekend of rape and sexual assault and grooming against Russell Brand. And the latest development today seems to be that the police have received a 4th allegation dating back to 2003. And we know it's the 4th one because, as the Sunday Times and Dispatches told us, the existing allegations were from 2006 onwards. No very little detail other than that at this stage, other than that the police have said that they are that they've spoken to the media organisations, that they've encouraged people to come forward, no matter how long ago these alleged incidents took place, and that they haven't yet said whether they've begun a criminal investigation or indeed any arrest. But is obviously looking very serious, and the police's action today has led to the tour which Russell Brand is currently on being cancelled by the promoters. I think there's 3 dates already being canned, and obviously his relationship with his publishers looks under threat as well. While we wait and see what actually happens as a result of those allegations.
Yeah, paused was the publisher said, wasn't it? Paused. Yeah, the Eye picking up on the live tour. Axed, they say axed, postponed, I think was the official argument. Windsor, Plymouth, those dates gone. It's interesting, isn't it, that, the encouragement for other women to come forward, Russell Brand denying it, because there is a school of thought that the accused should have their privacy respected as well as the accusers. I don't know, where people stand on that suggestion.
Well, I think we're in a really strange time at the moment because there's been a number of incidents in the last year or so where it's been very obvious that someone's been accused of wrongdoing, they've been arrested, but under a recent Supreme Court ruling, actually their right to privacy in this country trumps their right for the media to name them. But in so many cases, so many times, if the person's name is out there, other people come forward. And you can have a whole debate about a trial by media, but I think this story needed a critical mass of that incredibly well-sourced, well-researched, powerful intervention by the 3 news organisations, The Times, Channel 4, The Sunday Times. Mm-hmm. And now that has happened, I think this story is almost taking on a sort of snowball element to it. And I think it can only be a good thing if people now finally do have the courage, knowing there are other people out there, to come forward. And there are a million reasons why people might not have gone to the police before, thinking they were alone, a lone voice in it. I think there was a really powerful quote in the Sunday Times from one of the alleged victims who said, I was always, ever since I was 16, I was just waiting to open the newspapers one day and read this guy has been accused of all these things, and it just never happened. So eventually I got to the stage where I had to do it myself. And I think we're going to see a sort of this story is going to run and run. I suspect there's going to be quite a lot more to come on this one.
Well, as you said already, it is already happening. The publisher, the postponement of the tour, the police now involved, which a number of the newspapers have picked up on. You know, is that the next natural step, do you think, for there to be an investigation? Or do the police still have to wait for people to come to them?
Well, obviously they need to, it makes it a lot easier for them to have an investigation if they can speak directly to people, and that's what they've encouraged them to do. They can, obviously, without launching a formal investigation, preemptively look into it and see whether, whether that formal investigation can take place. But there's also, in parallel with this, obviously the police investigation, but there's also the internal inquiries being conducted by the various broadcasters who Brandon previously worked for, notably Channel 4 and the BBC. They, unfortunately, in recent times, major broadcasters haven't been have had plenty of experience of having some of their stars in the public eye, facing allegations along these lines, and presumably have learnt from that experience that it's really important to be on it immediately, to be transparent, to make sure that all the rules were followed. And we'll see, presumably, in the coming days whether that is the case. I know, for example, that the Culture and Media Committee of the House of Commons is meeting tomorrow to consider whether to haul those media chiefs in front of it and to decide whether to quiz them about this. So potentially it's very difficult for them as well. So there's these two elements in parallel. There's the sort of the employers bit, if you like, and also the police. But obviously the serious bit of it is the police.
There's huge pressure. The Met's reputation, as we've discussed so many times over the last few months and years on these pay-per-views, the Met's reputation is at rock bottom. They are going to be under a huge amount of pressure to get this right, but they can only really act within those tramlines if people are coming forward.
And one of the allegations we heard over the weekend was that if Russell Brand had got a job at one of these organisations, one of these media organisations, the discussion would be to pull all the women, all the production staff that are women off the job. So, I know a womaniser does not make a rapist, and he had a self-confessed reputation as a promiscuous, effectively a sex addict, I suppose. But does that show that those organisations knew that his reputation was coming before him, and actually there was a failure to act at that point, if that allegation is right?
I suspect that probably does. And also there's the allegation of using BBC resources to send cars to various places. And look, it has been an open secret. There's almost an element of, I can't believe it's taken this long for this story to happen. Obviously, the meticulous research and
he denies all the allegations.
He does deny all the allegations, obviously, but I thought we were discussing earlier, one of the most powerful bits of the Dispatches documentaries when they spliced actual quotes from Russell Brand on television, broadcasting to the nation, saying outrageous things that in this context now have an utterly chilling viewpoint.
Yeah. And it's broader than this as well, isn't it? I mean, the reason I think this is so powerful is not because it's one individual celebrity who might have particular unique circumstances around why some of these allegations